Last year, the Los Angeles Rams won Super Bowl 56 against the Cincinnati Bengals, ending the 2021 season. Finally, after a long offseason, on September 8th, football finally returns to us in the 2022-23 season. I've decided to predict every single game of this season to determine my predictions for the final standings as well as the Super Bowl contenders and champion. I'll be using this awesome website called Playoff Predictors, which pretty much lets you select every single matchup winner, and it does all the rest for you. It updates the standings, and at the end it creates a bracket based on the final standings. So it's a really fun site to use. I do this every single year, but I decided to upload this year's version on YouTube, just so you guys know what predictions I have for the season. Other than that, let's get into this video. So obviously there's hundreds of games every NFL season, so I'm not going to explain every single one of my decisions, but as you can see here, I sped up a recording of me picking my decisions earlier, and I'll give you a recap on all the main games each week. So obviously, opening kickoff game, Bills vs. Rams. I have the Bills taking this one barely for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think Josh Allen's going to be crazy motivated after that loss against Kansas City in last year's playoffs, and I have the Bills winning in a very close game, 31-28. Some other mainline games that I have for predictions is I think the Chargers will beat the Raiders, the Chiefs will beat the Cardinals, and the Buccaneers will beat the Cowboys. Keep in mind you always can see the standings on the teams from the side in case you're curious what record the team is currently at in my prediction. Let's move on to week 2. For week 2, I do pick the Chiefs winning against the Chargers. I don't see the Chargers beating the Chiefs in Arrowhead 2 years straight. I do think the Chargers are a slightly better team this season, but it'll take some time for them to get used to all the new components on their team. Other than that, there aren't any other crazy special matches this week, so let's move on to week 3. During week 3, I'd say the main game to look forward to this week is Packers-Buccaneers. Obviously, Rodgers versus Brady once again, and I have the Buccaneers winning this game just because of the fact that obviously the Packers have decreased from last season, losing their star player, Davante Adams. Obviously, it's still Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, so I do think the Packers will still have a very good year as usual. But that being said, not as good as we've seen in previous seasons. Another interesting match may be Rams-Cardinals, as usually they have some good divisional battles. I have the Rams winning, obviously, because I think they're the better team. Cardinals haven't proved enough to me yet, but let's go on to week 4, where there's actually 4 very interesting games this season. We have Bills-Ravens, which I think the Bills are going to win because the Bills are just going to be so good this year. Obviously, Josh Allen with a chip on his shoulder. It's going to be a good game, obviously, because Lamar's on the other end. But I do have the Bills winning that one. The Broncos-Raiders match might be very interesting considering how good the AFC West is, and now the Broncos actually have some talent to back themselves up. I have the Raiders still winning that though, as they've established themselves longer. Chiefs-Bucks, obviously Mahomes versus Brady once again. I have Brady winning this match. I think both teams have downgraded slightly, but Bucks haven't downgraded as much as the Chiefs considering Tyreek Hill is gone, who's a crazy deep receiving threat. And Rams-49ers was the last interesting game of that week, and I have the Rams winning that once again just because of how elite their team is. 49ers, Trey Lance might take some time getting used to the offense, so I still have the Rams winning that game. Week 5 has some interesting matchups such as Bengals-Ravens, where I think the Ravens will take it because if Lamar and the rest of the team is healthy, I think a healthy Ravens is scary. We didn't really see a healthy Ravens last season, which kind of stinks. I have Raiders winning over the Chiefs, a little bit of an upset, but at the same time, I think the Raiders actually are the better team this year with all the additions they've had. They've definitely improved. Chiefs have declined a little bit. Week 6 is the first week to have bye weeks, and I think the most interesting match by far this week is Bills-Chiefs. Obviously, the rivalry between them. I originally picked Chiefs, but obviously I regret choosing that. You'll see I'll change my decision in a second. And the Bills are such a different team this year. Josh Allen's going to have a chip on his shoulder because he's not losing to the Chiefs that many times in a row. Chargers-Broncos, again, will be interesting because literally every single match in the AFC West is going to be a primetime show. So obviously I'm looking forward to that one, but I do have the Chargers winning. Week 7 doesn't have too many interesting matchups. However, you could look forward to Chiefs-49ers, especially if Trey Lance is playing. Mahomes versus Lance could be a very interesting battle. Besides that, there's not many other interesting games this week, so let's go look at the standings. We have the Bills undefeated on one side at 6-0. The Buccaneers surprisingly undefeated on the other side at 6-0, which I think is due to the Buccaneers having a pretty easy schedule. You'll notice they don't have too many difficult battles so far. I think that is the main reason that they're still undefeated to this point. Now on to week 8, the first matchup that jumped out to me was Packers-Bills. Honestly, any matchup the Bills are going to be in is great because they are the team to beat this year in my opinion. They're going to beat the Packers obviously because the Bills are just going to be crazy good this year. I don't know how many times I can say it. The Packers have downgraded a little bit. I think it should be a solid win for the Bills. Another interesting match could be Rams 49ers, as that is such a good divisional battle. They always have a good game with one another, so look forward to that one as well. For week 9, only one matchup seems very interesting to me, and that of course is Rams Buccaneers. We'll see if Tom Brady can get revenge for all the times that the Rams have beat him when he's been in a Buccaneers uniform. Titans Chiefs could be interesting as well, because usually they have some pretty good battles as well. I do have the Chiefs winning. Unless maybe Malik Willis is starting, I don't see Tannehill really doing anything in this stage now, as he's actually starting to age. He's already mediocre enough, but now with his age coming into play, Titans might need to start Malik Willis as soon as possible this season if I need to have any hope in them going far. We're now at week 10, and the most interesting matchup I see here is Chargers 49ers. And I do have 49ers winning this because even though the Chargers, I think, have a better team this year, Justin Herbert will drop a random game, and I feel like his random drop game will be against the 49ers because they are a pretty good team, so it's not that far-fetched that he could lose this one. Also, Trey Lance will most definitely be starting into this portion of the year, so I think his talent will come a lot into play with the 49ers' success. But overall, nothing else too crazy in week 10, so let's move on to week 11. Week 11 has gifted us with two AFC West matchups, Raiders against Broncos and Chiefs against Chargers. I do think Chargers will get revenge on the Chiefs for their earlier loss this season. And I do have the Broncos winning against the Raiders. Mostly comes down to home field advantage because both these teams are stacked. And I just think Russell Wilson will finally be in his full form with this team now that he's gotten used to them. I do have the Saints-Rams upset. I have Saints winning that game because I think the Saints are going to be surprising this year, and many people aren't ready for them yet. I also have the Steelers pulling an upset on Cincinnati. Some games you'll see I'll randomly throw in an upset, and I feel like the Steelers defense, along with maybe some surprising plays by Mitchell Trubisky, could definitely overthrow the Bengals in this game. Rams versus Chiefs could definitely be the most interesting game in week 12. Obviously, a rematch of that crazy 2018 game. I think the Chiefs will take this because of home field advantage, but this will be a very high-scoring, lights-out game. Some other matchups to keep your eye on could be Saints 49ers. That one could be very interesting, as well as Packers Eagles, because if you can see in the standings, I have the Eagles at 9-2 right now, following a win against the Packers this game. The Eagles have a pretty easy schedule as long as the fact that they have improved as well, adding A.J. Brown and some nice pieces on defense as well. Hurts, I think, will develop pretty well this season, and I think the Eagles are one of the best teams in the NFC. Week 13 is loaded with good games, particularly Broncos versus Ravens, where I think the Broncos will get that win. Chargers Raiders, I think the Chargers will get that win, and Chiefs Bengals, where I think the Chiefs will get that win. Also keep your eye on Saints Buccaneers because the Saints always are Brady's kryptonite, so we'll see what happens in this game as well. Once again, I'm holding true to my prediction that the Chargers will be one of the best teams in the AFC, so if you see me picking them a lot, that is why, and that's why they currently have a 9-2 record. Week 14 also has some good matches in store for us, such as Chiefs Broncos, another AFC West duel, and Raiders Rams, which I think is going to be a very entertaining game. Also keep your eye out for Buccaneers 49ers, as it's going to be an amazing game either way. Brady Lance will be very awesome to watch, and if somehow Garoppolo is still a starter, which I don't think he'll be, but like I said, somehow if that is the case, Brady versus Garoppolo would be a very awesome storylined match as well. We're approaching all the matches that could have huge playoff implications because we are now in week 15, so things get really tight here, and we have some good matches. Bengals Buccaneers, the first matchup between Burrow and Brady, and that's going to be definitely a huge passing battle between them. I can't wait to watch that one. Rams Packers is going to be another entertaining one, as it's two of some of the best teams in the NFC going at it, and can the Rams get revenge off of that divisional round loss in 2020? So also keep your eyes out for that matchup. The most interesting match in week 16 surely would be Broncos versus Rams. I cannot wait to see this game, two star-studded teams going at it. And honestly, I have no recollection of two matches previously between these teams, so it's going to be a whole fresh take, and I can't wait to see what these two teams have an offer for this game. Eagles Cowboys might be also pretty interesting because it is a divisional rivalry, as well as the fact that both of them have playoff chances. So as the season winds down, this could have huge implications on seeding, so that one could definitely be a very underrated game. Week 17 not only has some crazy matches, but also, obviously being the second to last week, these could have huge playoff implications as well, so extra bonus points for that. We got Broncos Chiefs. I do have the Chiefs winning it. I do think they still are a slightly better team, mostly because of Mahomes and just everything he does. Bills Bengals. I think the Bills will receive their only loss of the season to the Bengals here. Yes, their only loss of the season. That's how good I think the Bills are going to be this year. That being said, I can't wait to see the matchup between these two teams because it could have been the AFC Championship of last season. Next up, we have Rams-Chargers, which is the battle for LA. And I think the Rams are going to win this because technically the Chargers have home field advantage, but the Rams have more fans than the Chargers. So truly, this is probably going to be a home game for the Rams. I think also the Rams are just slightly the better team, so I do have them winning this. But now let's move on to the final week, and that is Week 18. Huge implications on the playoffs, obviously. And luckily, the NFL has blessed us with some insanely appealing matches in the AFC, such as 2 AFC West showdowns between the Chiefs and Raiders. I have the Raiders winning that. With the Chargers and Broncos, I have the Broncos winning that. And the Bengals-Ravens, which I actually do have the Ravens winning that. Believe it or not, I have the Ravens winning the NFC North this season. I just think a healthy Ravens team with Lamar and an actual solid run game could definitely be better than the Bengals this year. So that might be my hot take, honestly, of this whole video. But let's keep moving on. You might think I'm a clown for having the Patriots over the Bills, but I actually am taking a shot in the dark on this one. And I'm saying that the Bills are going to rest up because they're going to be far ahead standings-wise of the competition, where if they lose, they have no jeopardy with their seeding. So I wouldn't be surprised if they rest up and the Patriots get an easy win off of that. So I have the Bills' final record being 15-2. I think that also makes it much more realistic as well. So that brings us to our final standings. We finished picking every single regular season match, and as you can see on the very left side we have the standings for the AFC, and on the right side the standings for the NFC. Bills are the number 1 seed with a 15-2 record, followed by Raiders with 13-4, Ravens with 12-5, Titans with 11-6, and then in our wild card positions we have the Chargers at 12-5, the Chiefs at 12-5, and the Broncos at 11-6. Barely missing the playoffs are the Bengals and the Colts. In the NFC, we have the Rams finishing with the 1 seed, 14-3, followed by the Buccaneers, 14-3, the Packers, 14-3, and the Eagles, 12-5. The wildcard spots are 49ers with 12-5, Vikings with 9-8, and Cowboys with 9-8. Barely missing the playoffs are the Cardinals and the Saints, both having 8-9 records. Now, obviously, these aren't my power rankings. These teams are in order of which teams I think are better than one another. A lot of this has to do with scheduling, which is why I think some teams have a better record than I thought they would. The Bills, the Bucs, and the Packers all seem to have pretty easy schedules, which is why I think all of their records finish pretty high up. I also personally think that the Chargers are better than the Raiders. If this was power rankings, then I think Chargers would actually be number 2 in the AFC, but due to standings, they are the 5th seed. One surprise to me was the Bengals not making the playoffs, and I guess it was just the predictions I made that if they do go according that way, they would not enter the playoffs, which is crazy considering they were the AFC champions last season. They haven't upgraded, though, to be fair, that much, and I feel like a bunch of other teams in the AFC have upgraded, so there is definitely a chance that they don't make the playoffs, considering how stacked the AFC is. There's so many teams that I definitely could see making a Super Bowl run in the AFC. And you could put a bunch of the teams that didn't make the playoffs in the AFC, put them in the NFC, and they would make the playoffs. Now let's get on to our playoff predictions, and if everything goes according to plan, the first game should be Chargers-Titans, and I think the Chargers would definitely have this game in the bag, considering I do think they are the much better team. Titans just happened to win the division, which gives them that good seeding. Ravens-Chiefs, I think Lamar will finally get that chip off of his shoulder that he barely wins against Kansas City. I do have the Ravens a better team than the Chiefs this year. That's going to be a very hot take, I understand. Get mad in the comments, I understand. Raiders, I do think are going to beat the Broncos because I think they just are a more rounded team. I think they have more offensive weapons, and I think their defense is a hair better than the Broncos' defense. On the NFC side, we have one wildcard match being the 49ers at the Eagles, and I think this is going to be a very close game. 2 young quarterbacks, Lance and Hurts, going at it, and I think this game will depend a lot on defense. In that case, I do think the 49ers have a slightly better defense. I think they have better coaching as well. I see a very close win for the 49ers. Packers-Vikings, this one wasn't as hard to choose considering Rodgers will always own the NFC North, even without Adams. It's going to be a closer game now that, he doesn't have Adams, obviously, but I still think Rodgers is going to win that. And then we have Cowboys-Buccaneers, which I think is an easy Buccaneers selection, considering Cowboys are the fringe team to make the playoffs. And that being said, no 7th seed has ever won a game. I think it should be a relatively easy match for the Buccaneers. Now that we're at divisional round, we got Ravens-Raiders, our first match, and I do think the Raiders are going to win this just because I think Carr will finally break the streak of not winning a playoff game. I think this is his time. This is easily the best team that surrounded him. And Lamar hasn't really executed well in the playoffs, so I definitely think the Raiders will take this one. Another game, we have Chargers-Bills. That should be another fantastic matchup. Like I said, the Bills are just a whole different breed. I think they're easily my favorites this year. And it's just, their defense is insane. And now that their offense is actually starting to gain traction, I think will be an MVP season for Allen. This team should be insanely hard to go against. Chargers would have had a great run this season, and I think the Chargers can only go up from here, but I just don't think they're at Buffalo's level yet. Next up, we have Packers, Buccaneers on the NFC side of things, and you know, I think Brady will once again get the best of Rodgers. As Rodgers doesn't have Adams, I do think Brady is the superior quarterback. He has the superior weapons and the superior defense. The only benefit the Packers have in this match is coaching, but like I said, I don't think that'll be enough. I have the Buccaneers moving on. The final matchup of divisional round is 49ers-Rams, a rematch of the NFC Championship of last season, and I think the Rams just still are the better team. This is Trey Lance's first season starting, okay? So you got to cut him some slack. It'll take some time for him to get there, but in a couple of years, the NFC will be his. I still think the Rams are also the better rounded team, so they will move on to go against the Buccaneers. The first championship game is the AFC Championship, and that'll be the Raiders versus the Bills. You know, same thing that happened with the Chargers. Perfectly rounded team, great talent on both sides of the ball, but it's just the Bills are so good. I can't explain how good I think the Bills are going to be this year. So I think the Bills will win it comfortably. I'd say 10-point game probably realistically is how many the Bills are going to win by. Sorry, Raiders, but same thing applies to you as the Chargers. You know, you'll stay around for a while, so maybe in a couple of years. The NFC Championship is a rematch of the NFC Divisional last year. It is Buccaneers against the Rams. And I do think Brady will get his revenge. There's just something about Brady getting his revenge on teams that usually happens. And Brady, any year after he doesn't win a Super Bowl, goes ballistic. For example, every other year since 2013, Brady has won a ring. Don't believe me? He won one in 2014, 16, 18, and 20. Next year, 2022. Will he win the Super Bowl, though? We'll see, as he does go against the Buffalo Bills. And this is going to be quite the crazy matchup. Brady versus the team that he's dominated for a long time, but finally they have something to say. Finally they have a team that can actually rival him. And I think they will rival him successfully. I do have the Bills being the 2022-23 NFL champions. Every streak comes to an end, so I think Brady's streak of repeating every other year will end this year. He might be able to squeak in one more ring in his career, but this is not the year. Not against a team like this, especially with all the star power they have and just how dominant they are on both sides of the field. I think it will be a close game, though. One possession, but I'd say a touchdown lead. I think we'll see a 31-24 final, giving the Buffalo Bills their first ring in franchise history.